Hello, welcome back into the LFC Transfer Room. My name's Jack. Joining me today, Kev, Colin, and Jay for what's going to be a nice, relaxing Sunday evening stream talking about some transfer news, some incoming, some outgoings. Going to be a pretty relaxed vibe, but Kev, Sunday evening where you're at, how you doing today?
Not too bad, mate. Just in sunny Liverpool at the minute, so getting ready for work tomorrow and getting the kids ready. But other than that, good. How are you?
I'm doing exceptionally well. Colin, I hope that you're joining us in the very good parade in terms of how we're doing.
Hey man, I'm in sunny Brighton, okay? It's like beachy weather all day. I'm pretty good today.
Jay, round us out. How you doing this evening?
All good, mate. Nice weather like Kev and waiting for work tomorrow.
I had to work this weekend, so I had a nice morning, which was less than ideal. But it was a good day yesterday. Salah signed the new contract yesterday. I'm not insane, correct? Or was that 2 days ago?
Yeah. 2 days ago.
2 days ago. I am insane. Thanks, Kev. It was a nice getting off work for that kind of news. We haven't had great news like that since, but it's going to be an interesting stream talking about some other potential contract renewals. We'll start off with the news that Joe Gomez, with James Pierce saying that Liverpool hope to retain him and have him sign a new contract. Now, he divides a little bit of opinion in the LFC fan base. Kev, I'll kick it to you first, with your kind of general thoughts about Gomez and the contract future that he has with his deal up in 2024.
I'm be made up if he extends. I think it's thoroughly deserved. Shown his versatility last season. He again struck with injury, but he's come in and he's done a job. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't getting into the centre back's position last season, but he then goes and shows his versatility and comes in as the backup to Trent and came in and done a good job. And his performance improved every time he played, and it shows if he gets the game time, he does well for us. Do you know what I mean? I think the problem is that we compare him to Trent and his crossing abilities, and that's where people then start getting into the marmite of what he is and what he can do. But I think over the season, he showed at times that he can come in and do a good job. If he does extend, I'll be made up. I'll be one of their made up that he is staying on, because I think he'll be more back up to our centre half position, more so than the right back. But he can do a job there, so I'm made up.
And Colin, for you, got 2 years left in the deal. Really interesting where he kind of falls in terms of the squad balance. For you, where do you stand on the Joe Gomez spectrum, so to speak?
Do you guys remember how Joe Gomez was like a diet Trent last season for like a couple of games? He was just flinging in those like pinpoint crosses and everything. I think I'm very high on Joe Gomez, man. I think when he was starting regularly for Liverpool in that one season, I generally thought he was England's best option at centre back because, first of all, he's quite young. He was learning from one of the best in the business in Van Dijk. He's really, really quick as well, and he reads the game really well. And his ball playing abilities are like really, really good as well, which is like a very difficult profile to find as a centre back. And he's just turning like 25, I think. So he's a very rare complete profile of a centre back. And I think because we've signed a backup right back now, I think that's the best thing that could happen to him, because I think we were sort of saving him in case we needed to rest Trent last season, which is not going to be the case now. So I think he's going to find more minutes at centre back. And I think going forward, we're going to slowly ease Matip away. And Gomez is, I generally think, one of the best young centre backs in the world. So tying him down should be like a very massive priority for us right now.
And Jay, Colin makes some interesting points there. I think what I want to hit on is the Matip versus Gomez as the backup. And that assumes Konate as a starter. When you kind of view Gomez in the prism of our current center backs, where does he fall for you, and how much do you expect him to play in the next few months to years if he stays at Liverpool?
To be honest, Colin's just pretty much said everything that I would have said about Gomez. I absolutely love Gomez. I really do. The season we won the league, him and Van Dijk as a partnership were just unbelievable. I think there was a phase we had 10 clean sheets in 12 games, the first 12 games of the season. It looked like we weren't going to concede a goal. That's how much I rate him. I think he's brilliant. And like Kev said before, he even came in and done a job when Trent was out. And you don't associate Gomez with whipping in great crosses, but he did do a job. So yeah, I think it's a massive priority that we get his contract sorted. And the thing about it, Jack, is he's probably 5th choice right now, based on what Matip done last season, how well Konate came in. That is the reality of it. He probably is first choice of centre half, but I also think he's still the future of Liverpool. Kanate and Gomez once Van Dijk and Matip move on, so there's no way I'd be letting him go anywhere. Colin had been ill before. He's still a young lad and probably one of the best young defenders in the world when he's getting his proper run of games.
Yeah. Before we continue that discussion, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video. Good to see you, Gary, Jen, Anissa, and Jen. Thank you very much for the £4.5 super sticker. We'll leave that on the screen for a moment. And Kev, you know, I think I'm in agreement with the three of you guys that big fan of Gomez, really high potential, keep him at the club, no brainer. But if he's asking for more game time and he wants to get onto the pitch more, but you have Kanate and Van Dijk, who I guess are just better options. If he's putting that pressure on you, what is your kind of decision-making go? Give him more game time, put him out on loan, move him on for a fee? If there's the pressure of game time, what do you kind of view, for you, Kev, the decisions in your head?
It's difficult because, as it's been quite rightly said, he is our future at centre half. He's proven how good he is. Now, is it worthwhile to bring him out on loan? I don't think so. I think he's past that time where you could send him out on loan and bring him back into the fold. I think the competition's there, and he's going to have to try and deal with that competition that's there already, and try and force his way into our starting 11. He can do it. He's done it before. There's no reason why he can't do it. But as Jake quite rightly said, last season, probably one of the worst times, you know, or just when he had his injury, was probably the worst time to get his injury. You get Kanate coming in, and he's hit the ground running last season. You've got Matip as well, who's probably had his best season for us. I thought he was our best centre half, to be honest. There is competition there, but where else is he going to go? Who's going to provide him with the best kind of learning from the best? If he goes anywhere else, he'll get his game time, but does that make him a better player if he goes to like a West Ham or that? I don't think it does. I think if he stays with Liverpool, he can be, if not the main leading centre half, but he's got to have to deal with the pressure of he's not first choice at the minute, and he's got to realise, well, I can get in. And I will get in, and if it means him trying to get in at somewhere else, right back for a little bit of time, he's got to start. For me, he's perfect for us, and I don't know how. It was a tough question, but for me, I'd have him staying. I think he's past the time where you can put him out on loan, and if we sell him, it'd be the worst thing we could do.
Yeah, and it's really tough for me because I agree that he should try and fight in to get that game time, but it's probably then him and Kanate jostling more or less for that position. The long-term future, you would imagine, is Gomez and Kanate as a center-back pairing, potentially. With Kanate, the long-term heir of Van Dijk, you just think about the comparisons between the two of them. But Van Dijk's only, 30, 31 years old? So for you, Colin, you know, that long-term future for Joe Gomez, how soon will you think he's the nailed-on starter, just based on the numbers there? Because Van Dijk isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Kanate isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And for me, at least, those two are the clear first choices. For Gomez, and he looks at his ability to be a nailed-on starter, how many years out in the future could you see that being the case?
I would say at like 3 years, he's not going to be a nailed-on starter for at least another 3 years, because first of all, Van Dijk, I don't even think Van Dijk plays in fourth gear. I don't think I've seen him play in fourth gear in most of the games, okay? He just cruises along in like second gear, and he's still the world's best, okay? So even when he's like saving all of this energy up and he just exerts when he really, really has to, if he's like, say, up against Adama Traore or somebody, he just clicks into third gear even then. So I don't think Van Dijk's going anywhere. And because of the quality and the reading of the game that Van Dijk has, I don't think he's going to decline physically that much. And even if he does, his overall skill set makes up for whatever physical decline will inevitably happen in the next couple of years, but not at least for another 3 years. But this is what I've said before. I think this Calvin Ramsey signing is really, really important for Joe Gomez as well, because now it frees him up to play as a centre back and not act as a cover for right back, because we already have that. And considering the amount of games they're going to be playing, because last year was like a historic amount of games he played, I genuinely think he's going to see a lot more game time now, because it affords it gives Jurgen Klopp the option to rest Van Dijk sometimes, which he couldn't do earlier because he needed Gomez to cover a number of areas. But now you're seeing this squad being fleshed out, so you have a designated backup who can also double up, but you don't really need them to. You know what I'm saying? So Ramsey's going to be the default right back backup, but Gomez is now a centre back depth chart, I think. So this is like a very big deal for him, that right back signing. So I think he's generally going to see a lot more minutes now, especially with 5 subs and the amount of games they're going to be playing next year.
We lost Kev for a moment there. I was off the screen. We'll get him back on in a second. Actually, right as I say that, he's getting back in. Give him a second for that. For you, Jay, you know, he only played 8 matches in the Premier League last year. And kind of similar question to Colin. How far out do you imagine his kind of dominance in terms of that center back group, where he is the guy next to Konate or whoever? Maybe it's a different guy in your mind in the future.
It's dependent, mate, because it's worth noting and remembering Matip didn't get injured last season, but prior to that, it was very rare he could stay fit for 2 or 3 games. Konate has had a big injury in the past before he signed for Liverpool, and Van Dijk's done his ACL before as well. So all them defenders, I wouldn't say have injury problems as such, but Matip's had injury problems his whole Liverpool career except for last season. I don't see him maintaining the standard he was at last season for as long as someone like Van Dijk. I don't think he could play at that level in the Premier League. So I think Matip's position eventually could be up, but I agree with Colin. It's not going to be next season unless there is a big injury. And I think that's the only way you'd be able to sell it to Gomez, is that, look, in the next 2 seasons, you could potentially be a starting centre-half. But it's one of them, mate. It's a nice headache to have when you've got 5 top-class centre-halves, when you compare to bringing kids through last year, and well, not last season, the season before. So it's a nice headache to have, but yeah, it's a question, mate, because it is one of them. It's not like he's not good enough to play, but you've got to justify playing, and none of the other players have done anything wrong. So I think my pitch to him would be, Matip's had 1 season injury-free. Chances are you'll be taking his role.
Yeah. I want to kind of do one more last roundabout with this question before we kind of move on to the next topic. You know, that last season, Colin mentioned it, Matip at one moment, or maybe it was Kev who mentioned it, that Matip was one of the best center backs, not just in Liverpool, but in the world when he was playing. Konate comes in. He's a phenomenal player. I think it started kind of with his ability to handle Lukaku and physical guys like that. He really kind of came in and shown. So you kind of had Van Dijk was the standard. You'd expect him to come back. And I guess he did come back from the ACL tear at an unbelievable level. So 3 center backs came back and really impressed you. Gomez did not. If you're looking at it from Jurgen Klopp's perspective, there's obviously a lot of talent there. But last season, he didn't pick up those opportunities as big or as well as Matip, Konate, and Van Dijk did. He still had good moments. Like I think Colin mentioned the what was it, the diet Trent Alexander-Arnold that he was for a little bit there. But I guess, Kev, for you, the fact that he wasn't able to kind of really have a big moment last year, how does that impact his future at all, considering the other 3 guys really had great seasons?
If you're taking last season alone in its context, then you probably say yeah. But if you look at it, what he has done since Jurgen's had him at the club, and he knows the level he can get to, I think he was coming back from a very probably another worse injury of when he had 3 years ago. So there was always going to be a drop off when he came back into the team, and it was noticeable. And for that season, he was trying to find a bit of form. And how do you get that when you've, as the lads are quite rightly said, you've got Matty playing best in the world, you've got Van Dijk, you're not going to replace, and Konate's coming in and proving a point as well. So he was struggling at the very start when he came back with game time straight away. So he then became versatile as a right back and came in and tried to do predominantly well there. I don't think it'll affect what Klopp thinks of Gomez whatsoever. I think he knows his potential. He knows where he can be. It's just that it gets frustration with Klopp, possibly with the fact that every time he looks as though he's getting a further on, he takes a further 2 steps back by another injury that belows him. Do you know what I mean? You know, and not necessarily at Liverpool. It was away at England as well. So that makes it makes it even worse. So, you know, it's out of his control, but he knows the level of what that player is in him. He's just got to start believing again and start the road again, and realise that, you know, in 2 years, 3 years time, as Colin and Jay rightly said, you know, he will be the main man there.
Colin, you mentioned, you know, a bit of his right back proficiencies last year. For you, next season, you mentioned Ramsey coming in as well, so that is a big factor. Does he play more minutes as a center back or as the backup right back next season for you?
I think he will play at right back a couple of times, but I think the coming season we'll definitely see the majority of his bleak minutes at centre back. I don't think he's going to play a ton of minutes though, but I know my feeling is that he will play a lot of games in the cups and stuff like that. But I think we'll see him at centre back primarily. And I just want to take a second here and just point out that how far we've come. Okay, like a couple of windows ago, we were like, oh man, we need to get Sven Botman in or like give Ben Davies some playing time, and we don't have centre backs, man. What are we going to do? And now we're like sat here debating, oh man, what happens to Joe Gomez, this guy who's like world class on his day and he's like turning 25. What do we do with this luxury centre back that we have in our trophy case right now? This is how far we've come in like a couple of transfer windows, okay? And that's how you build a squad that competes on all fronts though. But I think the bottom line is, I know we're going to see him at centre back a lot more often, but this is exactly the kind of players you need to keep in your squad, and this is where the man management part of it comes in, which is what Klopp is really known for. I think that's what's going to push this whole. That's what's going to tie his whole situation together. Like, I know Klopp will be in his ear all the time saying that, you know what, just bide your time. We know you were a part of our title-winning squad, so we know what you can offer. And there's going to be lots of games, so just hang in there for a while, and we'll get you there long term.
Jay, for you, kind of just to close out our discussion on Gomez, what you expect to see happen, and I guess I'll also toss in the question I asked Colin: more at right back next year or at center back next season for Gomez?
Centre half, definitely. And I'd definitely give him a new contract. If you look at the centre halves as well, he's the most versatile. He can play right back. I wouldn't put Van Dijk right back. I wouldn't put Matty right back. I wouldn't put Kanate right back. He's more mobile than all 3 of them. And if you remember, when we had Brendan Rodgers, he actually played at left back for quite a bit. Played a lot of games at left back. So yeah, you don't let a player like that go. So if we get him a new contract, I'll be made up, mate. I'm one of his bigger fans, to be honest.
It's going to be interesting what happens with Gomez, and I totally agree with Colin's point. It's a luxury sign, not a luxury sign, it's a luxury position to have, where you've got undoubtedly the best 4 center back in terms of a group in the world. And they're really kind of up there in terms of, you know, just the standard in comparison to everyone else. So let's move on to another player interested in potentially renewing a contract, and that's Naby Keita. James Pearce also reporting that Liverpool are interested in renewing his contract. Now, you say Joe Gomez divides opinion. He actually didn't divide any opinion amongst this stream. He was complete unanimous. Keep him. He's got the future here. Naby Keita, I've gone back and forth personally over him quite a bit, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussions here. Kev, I'll go to you first with it. Naby Keita, when you see the contract renewal off the back of last season, kind of just your overall take on it. Is it a fair contract renewal? What do you hope to see? Because he only has 1 year left on his contract, so it is almost a case of now or never for getting value out of him in the transfer window or letting him walk for free before you make a decision on it.
I don't know where to stand with this, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I'm heart's strong between letting him go, counting our losses, and then ruin if he goes anywhere else and starts performing after all. Now, for me, it doesn't help in the fact that he's never got going at Liverpool at any point in his career apart from last season. And even last season, you have to admit he wasn't as consistent as what we were expecting from. Now, I don't know where to stand with it, to be honest, because I'll be up. He's like Marmite, and I know Jay's feeling on him already, but But I'll be honest, I find it difficult to make an argument for him to keep him and extend him than what I can do to let him go. But I'll be absolutely gutted because I think there is someone in there for me that can actually do something with us. But if his time's up, then his time's up.
Colin,
I'll stay on the fence.
Colin, I won't angle it too much. Naby Keita contract renewal. What are your thoughts on that?
You know how you always have this one friend who's like dating this one person and you know it's going to be like a toxic relationship and you want to see them grow apart and you tell them, you know what, you should probably break up. But you just want you want to see them together because like so much drama, man. I think that's like Liverpool fans' relationship with Naby Keita, man. I think you probably want to see them apart and you will get a lot of people saying, oh, you know what, they should just break up and get it done with, okay. But then you see this couple of games that he has, like, you know what, this seems kind of fun, man, to watch, like from afar. It seems kind of fun to watch. So personally, I know we've been torn, but I'd lean towards giving him an extension solely because he's this kind of profile that we don't have across the squad. He's the one player who can replace Thiago in the lineup when he needs to sit out a couple of games, because we know we can't rely on Thiago to play every single game in the season or every single game in the Premier League as well. So you're going to need to rest him out for a couple of times at least in a couple of games. And Thiago's that left-sided midfielder who will take over for Thiago sometimes. So I think Keita's that guy. So I think from that perspective, it makes sense to extend his contract. But I don't think he's going to fulfill that number 8 potential that we've put on him. I don't think he's going to be the Leipzig Naby Keita, which is not a bad thing per se. He's still a very good player in a Liverpool shirt. I just don't think he's going to live up to those expectations. But even below those expectations, he's a pretty good player to have in a Liverpool squad. He's just not going to be a starter every night, but I think the renewal is coming his way.
Jay, I'll just kind of toss it to you again. You know, Keita renewal. Your thoughts?
If I were fireman carry or piggyback into any club in Europe, I genuinely just do not understand how anyone thinks he's earned a new contract. He's already on 150k a week or something like that. So renewal's going to take him to 180. He's had one season that he stayed fit and was massively inconsistent. There's certain games, like the United game, brilliant. City game, brilliant. Apart from that, though, like, what's he do? What does he do? Like, it disgusts me that he wears Steven Gerrard's number. Like, he's wearing Steven Gerrard's number, and people are saying, oh, let's give him a new contract. For what? But why are we giving him 180k a week? And we've been arguing with Salah for 12 months over extending his contract. It baffles me, mate. I would honestly carry him anywhere to Europe tomorrow. Like, I'd get rid tomorrow.
I'll make the argument for Naby because I'll take that position against you, Jay. Last season he played 2,000 minutes in all competitions. He had played, by my rough math, just about 1,980 minutes the previous 2 seasons combined. He's off the back of his best season appearance-wise. He's kind of gotten past the injury problems. The inconsistency, I think, does still plague him. But why why let him walk or move him on when there's what's the next option? Are we playing Henderson in the 8? Are we playing Harvey Elliott in the 8? But then you have no drop off to Kate, so you have no backup option. So from that argument, not like he's a great player, I think he offers a ton, but the fact that maybe there aren't better options, Jay, would you still move him on in that sense?
Well, I think there's better options in the market than Keita anyway. And I'd rather see someone like Curtis Jones get a run of games than Naby Keita. Naby Keita's had loads of chances now for me. Like I said, his wages are astronomical already. To say what he contributes to the team, a new deal means he gets more on top. Why? Why would we tie a player down who's inconsistent, can't stay fit, to 180 grand a week for the next 3 to 4 years? That is honestly nonsense to me, like absolute nonsense. So, yeah, mate, I'd let him go for free or I'd sell him tomorrow. There's no way I'd be giving him no new deal.
What would it take next season? Because I don't foresee a scenario where he leaves this summer. It would either be extension, so beyond this coming season, or it would be walking at the end of the year. What would he have to do this year for you to consider him having a long-term future here? for you, Jay?
Play like Naby De Bruyne.
Naby De Bruyne. That's a high bar. High bar.
There you go, mate. That night, he just, like I said, the games against like United and City, if he could play like that week in, week out, it's a no-brainer. You give him a deal, but he can't. And I honestly think it's the Premier League, and I get what Kev's saying. He might go somewhere else and look like he did at Leipzig. That won't happen in the Premier League. He will never be the level he was at Leipzig in the Premier League. He might go and do it in Spain, Italy, Germany, France. Go ahead, crack on. He's never going to do it in the Prem. There's so many games, mate. He reminds me of a little old man trying to chase everyone else who's younger and fitter than him and stronger than him. That's what he reminds me of a lot of the time. So, mate, there's not a lot that's going to change my mind over Naby Keita.
For you, Kev, I know you were sitting on the fence. You were refusing to kind of go either way. What would push you off the fence, I guess, in the next 12 months? Kind of Jay was like, Jay's like, all right, I'm firmly on this side and nothing's moving me. For you, Kev, what's pushing you one way or the other?
I honestly, I understand what you were saying, Jack, in what you were saying to Jay before, but I'm more swayed to making them go than actually keeping them at the minute. And that's because of what Jay has quite rightly said, the inconsistent. I think half the problem with Naby is that he came in after this great one season at Leipzig and set the world on fire. And we were expecting to see that kind of midfielder in our midfield. And for whatever reason, it hasn't ever come to that. He's shown in fits and starts. We all remember that Palace game where he sends someone for the echo about 5 times and then sprays a ball. But then in the next minute, a piece of wind, the wind blows and he falls over like a quaver and then he's injured for the next 6 months. It's been fits and starts and it's just frustrating. I think it's more frustration more than anything else with Naby. We all know he's good at it. And he can play that role, but I don't know. To keep him, I tend to agree. He's got to be somewhere between a Bernardo Silva or a De Bruyne season. He's going to have before and stay fit and be consistent. And if he does that, then we give him his contract.
Do you know what else he'd have to do, boys? Actually, I don't want him to get the new contract at all. But if he does, he's got to agree to give up that number 8. He's got to say, all right, I'll stay, but I am not wearing number 8. I don't deserve it. I shouldn't be donning it. I've disgraced it. He should not be wearing Stevie Gerrard's number, mate.
I always wonder, what if he wore, I don't know, the not the 14 because Henderson wears that, the number 18. Just throw a 1 in front of it. I think, not that he would have been a brilliant player if he just had an extra digit in his number, but it would have been interesting to kind of see how that compares. Really quick, kind of almost a jokey question for you, Jay. Is Keita a value for money transfer if by being underwhelming in the number 8 jersey for so many years, he reduces the pressure for Jude Bellingham when he comes in to take the number 8 jersey? By not making Bellingham the exact heir to Gerrard and reducing those expectations, is that a value for money transfer?
Mate, if you're trying to give him positives, I'll let you have that tiny, pathetic attempt of a positive for Keita. I will give you that if that's what you want.
I'm taking that.
Okay, you can have it.
Colin, for you, people mention, the United performance. How much is that valuable? Where it's the United performance, 1 out of 4 matches, but the other 3 out of 4, he's either, a non-factor or he's kind of almost a detriment. I don't think he's ever been, except for maybe the Madrid game in 2021, where he was a legit negative factor on the pitch. It was like you were playing with 10 men. He's just been a non-factor for me, at least. How much is that worth, having a guy who can show up 1 in 4 times, but when he does, he's at that level of performance? How much do you value that? How much would that cost to the market? I don't know how you kind of want to frame that, but the value Naby Keita brings for you, Colin, what kind of is it?
I think first of all, I wouldn't put it past Jay to carry out a protest, organize a full-fledged protest saying, let's get Naby Keita out of the club and start burning the number 8 jersey and stuff like that, man. I wouldn't put it past him, first of all. But secondly, I think, so when you look at the squad makeup right now, okay, the number of midfielders in terms of numbers, we're really up there, okay? We have enough bodies to cover that 3-man midfield twice and over, okay? But when you look at quality, don't you think there's like a big drop up? Okay, you can see Thiago is really at the top, okay, of that midfield tier list, okay, in the squad. After him, you'd put Fabinho in there. After Fabinho, there's like quite a steep drop off in terms of quality. And I think Keita, in terms of quality, I'm talking strictly in terms of quality there, okay? In terms of what he can do with the ball, what he can do without the ball, and his motor, his endurance, stuff like that, okay? In terms of that, he's the third best in the squad right now, okay? Then comes the rest, then comes like Henderson, Oxley Chamberlain, Jones, Milner, whoever, okay? But there's like a steep drop off from there. And Keita's somewhere in the middle of that between Fabinho in terms of quality and Henderson. Okay? He's bridging that gap right now, which I think is like a good profile to have because you don't want a steep drop off in quality in your squad when you're competing for titles. Okay, you're competing for every single title in a Liverpool shirt. I don't think you can have that drop off in quality. So in terms of that perspective, I would lean towards having him in the squad. But I don't see any other club tabling an offer for him because he's not a full-fledged starter anyway. He's not your first team starter. Okay, he's not going to start. You wouldn't peg him to start a Premier League game generally. Okay, so I don't see any other club coming in for him. But this is the value he brings to Liverpool. Okay, he's preventing a drop off in quality in midfield, and he's the de facto backup to Thiago as a left midfielder. So in terms of that role that he's carved out for himself, I think that's fine. And I think he just played like 40 games this past season. He didn't really have like major injury issues. So he was available. He didn't get picked too often, but he's still available. Like Klopp could have picked him, but I think he's carving out that role and as Thiago's deputy, and he's just going to keep holding it till Jones grows into that role, and then I think Bellingham comes on the opposite side. So let him have his place for now. Let him be at peace. Okay, let's not carry out the protests just yet. Let him chill for a couple of years. Okay, I get the wages and everything, but that's a contract he signed. We haven't extended it yet, and I don't think his extension is going to be on really high wages. I don't think he's going to get like first team starter wages. It's just going to be like a minor bump, which is fine because you keep getting more revenue as a club. So I say, you know what? For now, just let Naby Keita be, man. Let's not yell at the clouds just yet, man. Shit.
Jay's ready to fight. Jay's very ready to fight. I'll give my kind of take, and then I'll ask everyone to kind of assess what they want to happen, what they think will happen, because those can be very different things, especially in the world of Jay, who I think is ready to just mutually terminate his contract today, while the club probably won't.
The car's ready to go.
Yeah, the club do not consider that a financially feasible decision to make. For me, I think the best thing for Keita would be him and Thiago as the two guys juggling between that left center mid spot. Because I agree that he has been inconsistent, but I think the drop off from Thiago to Keita is far more shallow than anyone else. Jones is too big a drop off right now. I think Jones is the long term potential guy there, but I think that having him as the third choice with two guys who are, when able to be called upon, when on their day, can be quite good. I'm happy with that. But we should, I think, spring for Barella or Bellingham in that right center mid spot to just really give us some great impetus in the midfield. I'm going to go with the assumption that we're not signing a midfielder this summer. And Kev, I'll kick it off with you. It's not, do we sell him now? Does he go for free? The only two decisions are extend to go beyond the season, or he walks for a free after this season. If that's the decision for you, what do you want to happen at the moment? I'm not going to let you sit in the fence. What do you want to happen at the moment? And then what do you think will happen?
I would like him to go, but I think he will extend.
Jay, for you, will he?
The only thing I want to expect. Go on.
Yeah, it's clear what you want. What do you expect to happen as well?
No, I think he will get a new deal, unfortunately. The only thing I want to extend is my right hook to his chin if he stays.
Colin, you have to follow that up. What would you like to happen? What do you expect to happen?
God damn, how do you follow that up, man? Shit. Holy shit. God damn. He's gonna stay. And he's gonna extend his contract because I just don't think as a club we'll give up on a signing who costs like 50 odd million. Like he was supposed to be the spine of the squad when he signed him, right? Allison, Van Dijk, Keita, and we have like Salah in the front three. So he was supposed to be the spine. I don't think we'll let him go. And I don't think we're gonna get any like fair kind of valuation for him either. So from that perspective, it's just another midfield body to have. So I don't think we're going to let him go.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense to keep him, to be honest. I think that in an ideal world, him and Thiago, as I already mentioned, battle for those minutes, even another signing. But if it's him, Thiago, Fabinho as probably the best midfield three, I'm not as confident as I could be heading into next year. Well, the third subject of discussion on today's stream is about Roberto Firmino. I actually realized the thumb also includes Fabio Carvalho, so I have to include that later in the stream as well. But let's talk about Firmino for now. The Mirror is reporting that he's attracted interest from Juventus, and they believe they can get him for less than £20 million. So Liverpool are planning talks with Firmino. Still yet to be seen what's happening either way with that. This is a really interesting one, and it's one that we haven't kind of hit on. Like almost every other debate's been well hit upon. You have the Salah contract, the Mane, does he stay, does he go? Keita. All those debates have been done many times over. But the Firmino one has been kind of like almost pushed off because it's not one you really want to, I guess, face because it's an unfortunate decision, whatever you decide to do. So, Kev, for you, for Firmino, we'll say less than £20 million is £15 million, and Juventus make that offer for you. What are you doing with Firmino with a year left on his contract and the various decisions you have to make where you have almost 3 different options there?
The option for me is to keep him because he's worth more than that for me. I understand he's had a big drop off. He's probably had the worst drop off out of the front 3. And for me, I thought he'd be the first to go. But I'd have Bobby to stay. I think he can offer us something, and especially in a 4-2-3-1. Where he'll play as in a number 10 position. I think he can evolve Carvalho into one of the world's best if he stays. I think he can provide that kind of support towards Carvalho as he's trying to make his start of his Liverpool career. I wouldn't be looking at doing that. I think if we get rid of Bobby, then we're looking to replace. We're looking for a midfielder, and we're also looking for a new forward as well.
Yeah, Colin, for you, I guess your thought on the valuation of Firmino and kind of what you expect to see with his future in the upcoming 12 months.
First of all, I have a dream. Okay, I have a dream. I want to see Diaz. I want to see a front 3 of Diaz, Firmino, and Salah. Okay, solely because Firmino creates so much space. And can you imagine what Diaz can do with all that space after a whole preseason? Like, he wrecked the Premier League after coming in January, okay? Can you imagine what he would do with the amount of space Firmino would create for him? I think that would be fantastic to watch. And I think selling Firmino to Juventus would be a footballing sin, okay? I don't want to see that man play Max Allegri's kind of football, okay? That's the most boring-ass football I've seen in all my 26 years on this earth, okay? I think it would be a sin. I think Liverpool will pay for that sell by the footballing gods if we let him go to Juventus, okay? But I think he's going to stay for sure, and because there's no way we are tweaking our forward ranks after signing Nunez and letting Mane go. And secondly, I think he's the one who's going to walk when his contract is up because his productivity has declined a touch this season, but I think he still has a lot to contribute in terms of an rotating option and as a mentor to the attacking players coming through the academy and Fabio Carvalho and Elliott. So from that perspective, he's going to stay. And I think he was always going to be the member of that front 3 who would run down his contract and then go wherever he wants to go. And he'll, like Mane, I think he'll go on like good terms. But this season and next, I think we need him to stay.
It would have a nice element of balance to it of that front 3 of old, where it's Mane went for a transfer, Salah renewing, Firmino going out of free. You kind of have all 3 options. They all 3 go their own separate paths. I guess for you, Jay, when you see that valuation of Firmino, I think we can all agree that the Roberto Firmino and the skill set he has is not worth £20 million. The player he is today is much less than the one he was 2, 3, 4 years ago. But what do you kind of view Liverpool's decision making as when you have just 12 months left on the contract? You have a decently sized offer on the table, but then you may have to go dip into the market. So when you're balancing those things for you, where do you kind of land in terms of the Firmino spectrum?
I'd say 20 million for Firmino is a joke. You can have Keita for it though. No, in all seriousness, if you sold Firmino for that fee, you never want to replace him for that fee. So it makes no sense to sell him whatsoever. You sell Firmino for 15 million, you don't replace him with 15 million. It's going to cost 30 and above. So no, there's no way you'd let him go. If he wants to go on a free next year, great. But you don't sell him for 15 for me.
Yeah, it's interesting what happens there. It's an interesting comment from Halor that I want to pull up. Firmino should still have the ambition of getting into the Brazil squad for the World Cup, but if he stays at Liverpool, that's not going to happen. I guess Kev will just toss it to you with that. How much do you imagine the Qatar World Cup and the ensuing winter has an impact on his decision making? Because there's a lot of talent in that Brazilian front line, and he's going to have to probably play week in, week out to prove that he's not only at the caliber, but also at the fitness level to go play there. So for you, does that make a decision either way?
It'll make a decision for the player more so. And we're seeing that across a lot of the Premier League teams. You're looking at Sterling, looking at leaving Man City because he wants first team football. Richarlison wants to move up a gear and move to another club in the Champions League. Everyone's making all these people on the fringes are now looking at trying to move on. I can't see Bobby going though. I am just for the reason I get what Hell is saying, and I totally agree with what he's saying. It will be a concern, but that's down to the player. I think he's proven in Brazil how good he is. So, it's down to the player more than anything else, Jack. I think he will play in those games, especially in the Champions League games. He'll come on as a number 8. He'll have a few games in the group stages and that. He will get his game time. The only problem is that it's down to him what he wants. And if he forces a move, Klopp has proven time again that if you want to go, he'll let you go. But I don't think he will go because of what I said before. I think it's hard to look. I
don't know if anyone else lost Kev there, but I think I lost Kev. Yeah. We'll get Kev back in a second here, but Colin, for you, let's go from that World Cup angle of things. Can he get to the World Cup this winter at Liverpool, considering the amount of game time, the amount of competition for places? If a deciding factor for him in his head is making it to the World Cup, can he do that at Liverpool?
Right now, I really doubt it actually, but I don't think even if he manages to squeak into that World Cup squad, I don't think he's going to see a ton of minutes, because even when he was at his best performing for Liverpool, the Brazil coach preferred Gabriel Jesus up there, and even then Firmino made so many appearances as a sub and outscored Jesus. So I don't think anything at this point is going to sway the Brazil manager, especially when they have so many forwards coming up in the Brazil squad. Man, it's too difficult to fight for a place in that front three in the Brazil squad, even if they want to play a front three, that is. But I don't think Firmino manages to squeak in, and even if he does, I don't think he's going to see a lot of game time. And I don't think Firmino is that guy who's who forces way out of Liverpool just to get into the World Cup squad so he can have more minutes. I don't think he's that kind of guy, because at this point in his career, I think he knows that Nunez is the guy going forward and he's going to be a backup. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere, even from a World Cup point of view. That Brazil squad is just stacked, man. It's really, really stacked. I don't think Firmino is the kind of guy they're looking for in that Brazil system. So I don't think the Liverpool role is going to matter at this point. I think it's a bit too late to make a judgment on that for him.
Yeah, for that World Cup position, Jay, and kind of pulling it out, just instead of looking at the Brazil squad and kind of comparing that, how much could he actually make a difference this year, these final 12 months, if the goal is run down on a free? How much will he play? How much will he break into that side, considering those center forward options, Nunez, Jota, even Salah could potentially play there. You wouldn't want to shift him off the right wing, though. So when you look at those options, how much do you expect him to play this coming year?
It depends really, mate, if we change system as well. I think a lot of it, Klopp does love Firmino, so Firmino will get game time. But I think if we were to change tactic to a 4-2-3-1, I think he'd see more game time, because I think there's a chance he'd play in the 10. I think he's the most suited for that, and he creates tons of space for Nunez. So I don't see him obviously getting the type of game time he was used to when he was at his best, but he will get games just because how much Klopp loves him and how well he knows the false nine role when we do use it. So I think he'll play, but he won't be a important 13 player as such, like every week.
And he's the fifth. I was going to go with Kev. That's very disappointing that he's crashed again. But he's the fifth highest paid player at Liverpool at £180,000 a week, according to Spotrac. And I guess, Colin, I'll toss it to you. You know, the finances of the decision. Where does it fall for you in terms of a fee that's acceptable to leave right now, and a contract that you would be comfortable paying him as a squad option from beyond just this upcoming season?
In terms of a transfer fee, though, I think it also depends on what kind of clubs are in for him, right? Like, where do you envision Roberto Firmino playing at this point? I don't think it's like at a Champions League contending club. I don't think it's for a club that's going to be competing for the Champions League title. So, if it's not going to be that club, you're anyway going to have to accept a lesser fee because there's a steep drop off in terms of how much revenue clubs get when the further they go in the Champions League, and generally these clubs are also winning their own leagues, so they anyway have a lot of money, so they're constantly bringing more money. So when these clubs aren't in for your players, you generally have to accept a lower fee because they don't have that money firsthand, and you want your players to leave on amicable terms, which is why we didn't accept less money for Mane, right? So from that perspective, I don't think we're going to see a fair offer for Firmino, and I don't think any other club respects his talents as much as they do at Liverpool because he's a proper fit here. Um, in terms of wages, also, I don't think even if they renew, it's going to be on improved terms. I think even Milner reduced on like greatly reduced terms this season. So even if on the off chance, I don't think it's going to happen. But on the off chance that Firmino renews his contract, I don't see it being on improved terms because this is a player who's at basically the approaching, not at the end, but he's like approaching the end of his career. And I think he's at the end of his career at a title contending club, but has enough quality to be a rotation option for a squad like Liverpool because he just has that much quality. So even if he does renew, I definitely think it's going to be on like vastly reduced terms because he's going to have to make space, and like his time is nearing. I think so.
Let's talk about what we think will happen, we want to happen. Kev, of the variety of options in front of us for Firmino, where do you land in terms of what you'd like to see and what you expect to see?
What I like and what I expect are going to be the same, which is he'll run his contract down and it'll be thank you for everything you've done, Bobby, after next season.
Jay, for you, expectations and what you'd like to see for Firmino?
Pretty much the same as what Kev said, mate, or if you did get a new deal, it'd have to be similar to the Milner one. Short term with like an optional additional year and a reduced term, because I don't think you can pay a squad player 180k a week. Makes no sense.
Colin, for you, are you going to break away from the go on a free brigade, or are you joining them?
I love Firmino with all my heart, man. He's one of my most favorite players, and those kung fu kicks are priceless. But I think this is the logical option for him and the squad, that he walks on his contract, and it's just a good ending for that front three, man. Ties all the loose ends together because, like you said earlier, we sold Mane because he wanted to go to another club, and he's not that at that much of a decline anyway. So we sold that guy. We've renewed one guy, and one guy has to leave. It's just like the holy trinity of the front three, man.
Yeah. Let's end the stream on a more positive note. We've kind of had, what will we do? Will we lose these players? Are they going to go for free? We got a new player today. I mean, he was supposed to happen in January. He was announced in like May, maybe June. I forget when his transfer was formally announced. But Fabio Carvalho was officially announced as Liverpool player today, wearing the number 28 next season. It's an exciting one. I think that for me at least, not the highest expectations for him. But what he could do this year is really, really, there's a lot of potential this year. For you, Kev, what's the most exciting aspect of this transfer now that it's finally, the pictures with him in the kit, he has a number, it's really fully over the line now. What are you kind of feeling about his upcoming season?
I'm really excited to see this young lad play in real life. I've seen him on the telly playing for Fulham, and what he can do in the wide position is creative vision for Mitrovic last season was just unreal. So if he can bring that into his game and plays for us, then we've got a worldie on our hands. I just think he's going to go on leaps and bounds, and especially with the likes of if we do change our formation, which many of are saying, and you've got Bobby there for one season, a year of Bobby in his ear tactically, I tell you what, this lad's going to be unreal for me. I'm really excited, and I reckon don't get me wrong, it's not going to be he'll be a main starter, like, but I'll be watching the pre-season games more than ever just to see where he is going to be played, and are we going to adopt a new formation as well? So it's going to be good to see where Klopp is actually going to perceive where his position is going to be. I think it'll be mainly the cup games. We'll probably see him and he'll be eased in, but I'm really excited.
Jay, for you, you have Carvalho. There's a lot of different, I think, not only positional areas he could pick up in terms of roles, minutes played. What do you expect? What are your expectations for year one? A successful debut season at Liverpool for a guy signed for a pretty cheap price from the Championship and a young player too. What are your expectations for year one?
I actually think he'll play more than people think. Because if he went, I think he potentially would have been loaned out. I think the good thing about him is there's no one else in the squad like him. In terms of the way he plays, he's kind of a carbon copy of Coutinho in a sense, in some ways. He can play on that left side, the right side, and obviously 10 is his best position. But I'm like Kev, obviously he's done really well at Fulham, but the Championship and the Premier League are two different animals. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts to the Premier League. But I think Klopp will give him chances, and I think he's been brought in for them games where we're struggling to unlock a defence, because we only really have Thiago who's capable of that, unless it's a bit of magic from Diaz or Salah. So I think Carvalho will actually get games and he'll be the player we look to unlock a defence. So I do think he'll play a bit more than people are expecting, to be honest.
Colin, I'm going to take what Jay's hitting at is more than people expect. Give me a number. Appearances, goals. What is the over-under for you? Not even over-under. Just what do you expect? What would you like to see for a successful year one in terms of his contribution?
I think I'm going to wait till the preseason, because I think the question right now is where is he going to play? Like we know he's an attacking player. He was an attacker in the Championship and he set up a bunch of goals for Mitrovic, but that's not really the kind of football we play here. So I just want to get clarity first on where he's going to play. Okay, if he's going to play in the front three, fine. His numbers are going to be really, really good because he clearly he thrives in the box, in and around the box, and he likes to get a shot away as well. So if he's going to be as a member of the front three in the cups, especially, so he's going to rack up some goals pretty early and pretty quickly, because the early rounds are a good way to settle in your young players and they get a lot of game time, right? And if he's going to play in the front three, I'd expect at least 7 goals to start with. Okay, if he's going to play as a midfielder, I don't see how much game time he's going to get because there's too many bodies to cover as midfield 3. But there's 2 things here though. First of all, we made apparently the decision that we're not going to loan him out. So I don't think people realize that it takes a certain caliber of player to hang around in this Liverpool squad at this level, because this is a squad that's competing the Premier League, Champions League, and both the domestic trophies. So to be retained as a member of the squad for a title contending season, you clearly are a good player. Okay, if you're going to hang around, if you've been deemed good enough to hang around by one of the best managers in club football. Secondly, I think Jurgen Klopp said at his unveiling today that he has the ability to just bring a stadium to its feet. That's setting really, really lofty expectations. Okay, so if he's that kind of player, I think he's generally more likely to play in that front three. So if he does, I'd see him scoring 7 goals really quick and early because he's that kind of player. If he's a midfield player, his numbers are going to go down, but I think he's still going to bring a lot of magic to the squad.
We have this comment here from Anthony in the chat. Aim for Minamino numbers first season. For you, Kev, is that a fair expectation? Because he had 10 goals in all competitions last year, leading goal scorer in both cup competitions that we won. Is that a high expectation? Is that a fair expectation? Is it low for you in terms of the first season?
In his first season, I'll be expecting goal contributions to be anywhere between 10 and 20 for me for next season. I think he will. Listen to what Jake said. It's kind of changed my mind in a way. in my mindset now, in the fact that he will get some game time other than just the cup games. I can see him coming on last 20 minutes in certain games, especially against the newly promoted teams in which he's actually played either with or against. You know, those people in the bottom half of the table from about, say, 11th all the way down, I can see him coming on for 20 minutes if games are, especially if they're playing in a low block game, and then see how his versatile he is then and build his confidence that way. So I think he will get his time. I think we'll probably see him more in a number 10 role if we do revert. Could play on the left-hand side as well. So for me, anywhere between 10 and 20 goal contributions I'll be made up.
Jay, for you, Liverpool's best 11. Does Carvalho factor into that? Because I know you're obviously not Keita's biggest fan, so he's out of the discussion. It would be then in the 4-3-3, Henderson as the 8, potentially, would be my guess. Or maybe Carvalho or Firmino as a 10, or even as a midfielder in a midfield 3. Where does Carvalho land in terms of what you see as the best starting 11? Not necessarily how it would play into the squad, but how far out is he from a starting position?
I think it's too early to judge that. Before he's even played pre-season, it's like Colin said before as well. You need to know what position it is that Klopp fancies him in. Whether the pace of the Premier League is too much, and the only way you find that out is by him playing Premier League games. You can play as many pre-season matches as you want. It's not the same as a Premier League game. So right now, mate, I just see him as a bench player, and if he's someone who, like Kev said, can come on the last 20 minutes of a game, produce a bit of magic, that's what's going to get him start. And then if he can keep that up when he's starting games, then yeah, he'd be a first team player, but it's far too early to try and judge that yet. I think the potential is there to be a first team player, but like I said, you've got to give him that chance first.
Yeah. I think it's another great piece of business in my perspective for Liverpool, because the expectations and the floor is quite high and the ceiling is huge as well. It's just incredible again, work from the club to sign that player. I want to end the stream on a guy who hasn't been mentioned yet. I think he's been mentioned in passing in the stream. It's Jude Bellingham. You know, there's been a lot of, I don't know what the perfect word is for it. Chaos, confusion,
Speculation.
That's a great word, Colin. A lot of speculation on Jude Bellingham and his future. None of it too concrete. And actually, in James Pierce's mailbag that he posted in The Athletic today, he was saying, that Liverpool aren't necessarily put off by the 120 million euro, which is 103 million pounds, price tag for Jude Bellingham for next summer. Wages would be where they more so would be kind of put off by a fee, because they recognize the long-term future of him. I don't know if this is really we're not going to delve too deep into it because there was a lot of discussion yesterday. For you, Colin, how much is your heart primed for breaking? If he doesn't sign this summer or next summer, where do you kind of land in terms of the I don't even know what kind of spectrum it is. Just that, do you want to see, obviously you want to see Jude Bellingham sign, but how much do you expect it to happen? How much are you preparing yourself for that for you, Colin?
I'm expecting this to happen quite a bit solely because he's been fanboying all over Liverpool players to Instagram posts, okay? He's liking all of that on Instagram and everything, and he's like, yeah, Jordan Henderson, you legend, yeah, man, stuff like that. And everybody's like, yeah, we got the number 10 for you, man, like stuff like that. So my instinct tells me that he's going to be a Liverpool player. I didn't really think that Tchouaméni was going to be a Liverpool player by any means, because he's like the kind of guy who would move to another club. Same with Mbappe. I never thought we were going to get him. He felt like he was going to ultimately move to Real Madrid. But with Bellingham, it feels like he's going to be a Liverpool player. It's just a matter of time. I don't think it's going to be this season anyway, because I don't think Dortmund are going to sell two big names in the same window, especially when they've signed like a number of quality players. They've signed like Nicolas Sula already, and they've signed a couple of other players. So they're clearly rounding out that squad and building it around him for this coming season. So I don't think they're going to rip those plans up. But I genuinely believe he is going to be a Liverpool player, because I think that's, I know it sounds kind of corny, it sounds like a love story or what. I think that's in his destiny, okay? Like, we're going to make him sign a contract when it's like raining outside and shit. Like, Jurgen Klopp's going out in the rain with this contract, man. They're going to like hug it out and stuff like that. And then he's going to sign that contract and everything. That's going to be the announcement video, okay? Mark it down.
That would be I'll pitch it to the creative team at Liverpool. For you, Kev, Jude Bellingham. kind of just where do you fall? You know, obviously he's a top class player, super young. Klopp could make him into a world beater. How much do you expect it to happen? How much do you kind of prepare yourself for disappointment or, you know, the adulation if he signs?
Well, I'm all in, because who mentions a year before he's gonna go the price of the player straight away? So why produce that? And as Jay quite rightly said, like yesterday on his stream, and if you haven't watched it, watch it, because it was a good one yesterday. Why announce Salah now and not have anything else? So, you know, it's there to be done. This is how low that's how low it's going to be. It's going to be 103 million, because I can't see it being any lower than that after next season. Whether he has a good World Cup or not, it's going to go up, and we're going to get in an auction. And you look at the Sharks that are going to be around, Newcastle for whatever are going to be sniffing around as well, and it'll just be a public auction on wages in which we're not going to get into. But for me, I'm all in, and if we don't get him, then Plan B for me will be Barella.
That's not a terrible bet. Plan B at all. You have the Bellingham, Barella, the B's right there.
Yeah,
a bit of a connection. Jay, to kind of round out the stream, we've been here for about an hour. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already, because if something happens with Jude Bellingham, you turn on those notifications, you'll get a notification of us going live. And I think that'd probably be the most excited any of us would ever be on one of these streams if he signed, because that would just be such a big deal. Jay, I didn't get a chance to kind of watch yesterday's stream, so I will follow Kev's advice and go do that. You don't have to kind of go through the full, you know, roundup of last stream. But for Bellingham, for you, where do you land in terms of your expectation? What he could do, the kind of the needle movement he could pull? For you, Jay, what do you envision?
Yeah, I said yesterday, signing Bellingham isn't just a signing; he's an investment, because of his age. You know, if in 3, 4, 5 years he goes, you know what, I do want to go and play for Real Madrid, I do want to go and play for Barcelona or whoever else, you're going to make the money back on him anyway, and some, probably. What I don't get is if Dortmund have said they're asking price, what they want, we want the player. They're saying his wages might be a problem. Well, if you know the price you need the player you want, what are you waiting for? Other players to offer more money. Other teams to offer more money next season. At the end of the day, Bellingham's value and wage demands aren't going to decrease. They're going to increase. We've already spent 65 on Núñez, but we've already, by the end of the window, we'll have made that back and some. So there has to be money there to spend, because we obviously came into the season with a budget prior to any sales. So we'll have broke even again, at least, or made a profit once everyone's gone. So for me, it's stupid not to move now. I covered most of this yesterday, like Kev said, so do watch it. But for me, I think it's stupid to wait a year. I don't know what it is you're waiting for, to pay him more or to pay Dortmund more, because they're the only two things that are going to happen.
I think the only realistic scenario where Bellingham does sign involves Naby Keita going out the exit door, which, I mean, I'd have to be sad about that. I kind of abandoned him a little bit. I left the fan club, but I would be sad to see him go. I would be very happy, though, if Bellingham signed, but I don't know.
Can you imagine me?
Jay,
we sell Keita and get Bellingham. I grow me hair back. I grow me hair back.
That's how good it'll be.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be immense. Well, it remains to be seen. There's a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's, I don't know, maybe a fire.
More smoke.
More smoke. Just more smoke. Well, thank you guys for coming on the stream today. Thank you everyone for joining in the live chat today. It was a nice chat with everybody this Sunday evening. We're getting pretty close to players returning on Monday. A good group of them comes back on the 9th. A lot of them come back to prepare to fly to Thailand, where they play Manchester United. So preseason is, 9 days away. That match against United will kicks that off. And we're in the month where Liverpool play again. They play against City in the Community Shield on the 30th or 31st. I forget which day it is. Is it on the 30th?
30th.
That's my birthday.
Yeah.
We're going to get a nice birthday present of a victory in the Community Shield. And then we'll count it as a major trophy after we win it. So I'm excited for that. But to Colin, to Jay, to Kev, I've been Jack. We thank you all for joining here today for our stream from the LFC Transfer. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, you like the video, so you catch all of our live and pre-produced content we produce all summer long and all next season long. So make sure you don't miss that. But until next